If I'm being honest, when it comes to studios that produces good films, A24 will be on top of my list. And if you have never heard of that name before, you may have watched some of their films like Moonlight, Midsummer, Lady Bird, Ex Machina, Minari, X, and so on. The reason why this company is so famous is because they support independent filmmakers and independent cinema by believing in them and giving them a platform to be seen by the world. And with this, they produce and release amazing films with great characters, great storyline, beautiful cinematography, and when I mean beautiful, I mean
perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Which brings me to my next point. Waves, a film that was released back in 2019 and the topic of this video. So, without further ado, what is Waves about?
Don't worry about it, and you know why? Because the wise and noble father's gonna be there to hold it down.
Really? Where is he? Where is he? If you see him, will you send him my way?
The film follows Tyler Williams, a popular high school senior on the wrestling team. Outside of school, he parties with his friends and spends a lot of time with his girlfriend, Alexis Lopez, and they both seem to have a great relationship. But is routinely pushed by his father, Ronald, both physically and mentally, to be better. And you can see this a lot in the film, where he wakes up every morning at 4 to start jogging, even though he comes home late, or he's not allowed to take a break from doing his homework.
You done with your homework?
Yeah.
What you waiting for?
I just came down to say hi to Mom. It's a 2-second break.
Or he has to train every single day in and outside of school. And even if he wins the competition, his dad doesn't look impressed. His stepmother, on the other hand, Catherine, is more understanding of Tyler's pressure and tries her best to connect with him. Without anyone knowing at school or at home, Tyler suffers from a SLAP tear, also known as
SLAP stands for Superior Labrum Anterior and Posterior,
which he keeps secret from his family and team by stealing his dad's painkillers. And I can't lie, I know it's wrong, but I don't blame him for that, because having a father like him is scary. Like, I get it's tough love, but at the same time, Tyler is afraid of him. And sometimes you can see it, and sometimes you can't. Tyler sees a doctor about this who warns him of how severe his injury is and highly recommends him undergoing surgery before it's too late. After finding out, he became depressed, he started drinking, doing messed up things. His performance in training also started to decline. Instead of Tyler listening to his doctor and telling people that he trusts, like his sister or his stepmom, Tyler decided to continue wrestling competitively until he is thrown onto his shoulder during a match, causing irreparable damage to his shoulder and ending his session as well as his career. And I don't know if it's just me, but his dad didn't look worried about his son at all, but instead he looked disappointed that he lost, even though he has a lot of medals inside his room, all because his son is unable to get the scholarship that he's been training for. The only person besides Tyler who looked upset was his stepmom. After his family found out that he's suffering from a shoulder injury, Tyler overheard them saying, One night, Tyler gets a text from Alexis, who reveals that her period is late. And if he thought Tyler's day couldn't get any worse, he found out that Alexis is pregnant with his child. With this, he takes her to get an abortion, but when confronted by pro-life protesters outside the clinic, Alexis contemplates whether she should keep the child or not. This leads to a heated argument between her and Tyler, who objects to wanting to be a father at their age and in his condition. This made Alexis angry as Tyler is not considering her feeling, making her to walk home alone and them just shouting at each other.
Bye!
Distraught, Tyler begins drinking heavily and abusing drugs at parties with his friends and is later consoled by his younger sister, Emily. Eventually, Tyler decided to text Alexis back because he is willing to mend the relationship, but that did not happen. Instead, Alexis tells Tyler that she has decided to keep the child with support from her family, which made him confused. When Tyler tries calling her and demands to speak to her in person, Alexis breaks up with him by saying it's over and blocks his number, sending him into a rage in which he destroys his room and is grounded afterwards. The night of the school dance, Tyler goes on Instagram and sees Alexis enjoying herself and posing for a picture with her friends, including Emily and another boy, which made him jealous. He gets high and drunk and attempts to leave the house before being confronted by Catherine.
I didn't go to the store.
You're grounded. You're not going anywhere.
I'm 18 years old. You can't ground me.
Why do you smell like alcohol?
Ronald attempts to defuse the situation, but Tyler mentions that he hates him and throws him to the floor and leaves in Ronald's truck. He drives to a house party where he sees Alexis go upstairs with the boy from the photo. Emily, on the other hand, notices his arrival from a distance but says nothing. The first thing Tyler did in the party was to get drunk and then follows Alexis to the garage, demanding to know if she had intimacy with the boy and if she's been drinking while pregnant. Though she mentions that her friend is not into girls and that she was getting drinks for her other friends. As the film carries on, the argument turned physical, and it was revealed that Tyler doesn't really listen or know a lot about Alexis. They both started to hit each other before Tyler strikes Alexis violently, slamming her head into the floor and knocking her unconscious as she begins to bleed out. Horrified by the situation, Tyler flees the scene and returns home before attempting to run away before he is caught and arrested by the police. While all of this is happening, the paramedics attempt to resuscitate Alexis, but she dies from her injuries. Despite a guilty plea, Tyler is convicted to life in prison for second-degree murder and is eligible for parole after 30 years. And this is Waves, Part 1. And if you're questioning, what do you mean Part 1? The first part of the film mainly focuses on Tyler's perspective, but in Part 2 it focuses on Emily's perspective. And if you're wondering who the flip is Emily, Emily is Tyler's sister. In the first part of the film, you don't see her a lot. The only time you see her is with Alexis or with her family, mainly Tyler. Besides that, you rarely see her at all. But jumping back to the story, between the flood of support Alexis received after her death and the spiteful messages directed towards her and her brother, a grieving Emily decided to stop using social media, and I don't blame her for that. At school, she usually keeps to herself and other students rarely talk to her after knowing what happened. She is then approached by her classmate, Luke, who is described as an awkward but also kind-hearted person. He asks her out for lunch and the two begins to have a friendly relationship. During this time, Emily also overhears her father and her stepmom arguing over Tyler, with her dad blaming Catherine for her lack of presence in his and Emily's lives, and Catherine blaming Ronald for his overbearing treatment of Tyler, which is kind of true. Eventually, the two decided to have a divorce or break up, either one of those two. One day, Ronald talks to Emily on a park bench and asks her if she's doing better, which is kind of strange to see because you don't really see her dad paying a lot of attention to Emily compared to Tyler. She mentions that she's feeling fine, but she still feels guilty knowing that she could have stopped Tyler that night and that she hates him for doing what he did.
You know, I could have stopped it.
Stopped what? What do you mean?
Well, I was there that night and I saw him following her. And I had that sick feeling in my stomach.
Ronald advises her not to hold any grudge for his mistake and that no matter what, he still loves them both. And he also blames himself for pushing Tyler. Emily later learns from Luke that his dad, who was estranged, abusive and sick, is close to death. So both of them decided to go to Columbia, Missouri so that Luke can make amends with him. Upon seeing him, Luke's father's spirits are lifted and he begins to survive longer than expected. As Luke continues connecting with and caring for his father, Catherine contacts Emily over her whereabouts, though she struggles to find the right way to tell her before eventually saying that she's doing something important and she appreciates everything she has ever done for her. During the night, Luke's father suddenly passes away and Emily consoles Luke while he was mourning in the hospital and on the drive to Miami. While this was happening, Catherine decided to visit Tyler in prison. We also see a glimpse of Tyler in prison and Alexis' parents grieving over her daughter. In the remaining minutes in the film, Ronald and Catherine sit in Tyler's room having memories of him. And the film finally ends with Emily riding her bike, finally feeling at peace within herself, while the camera pans out. And this is Waves. Overall, it's a great film and I will highly recommend it if you really enjoy great cinematography because this film is really beautiful and it has really good characters. At the beginning it's kind of slow, but as the film progresses it gets kind of interesting.